Hi,
Good morning.
good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
It's wonderful to see you. I, uh, I have my tea and I'm talking to a mystic, so I must be in the right place.
I'm talking to a mystic as well.
Okay. Uh,
Uh,
well,
uh,
Pamela, thank you so much for inviting me in and to your tea house, and I've really been looking forward to this conversation for a very long time.
Me too. All right. Are you ready for me to click live?
Yes.
Okay, I've got to sign into my YouTube account. Yeah. There we go. Sign
And
in.
and you look lovely this morning, by the way.
Thank you. It's good to see you as well.
Hmm.
You look very beaming.
Oh, you know what? Can you look in the mirror? Do you or look in the video? Look on your tooth here. I don't know if that's a gap in your tooth or if
Nope.
that is. Oh,
It was a
oh, oh.
blueberry.
Well,
Yeah.
I had blueberries this morning too. That's what it looked like. Okay, good. Oh, I'm glad we got that.
Okay. It says I have too many characters in my title, so let me fix that so we can have
Hmm.
a title. Mm. There we go. All right, now I'm going to click it.
Okay.
All right. It says we're live, and I'm going to go to my channel.
Okay.
Give us just a second for Anya to share it to all of our live portals in social media.
Okay.
And I'm going to open it up so I can see chat and another thing here. Right, and we'll give people a few moments to sign in.
Okay. So are we not on yet? Is that correct?
Oh, no, we are.
Oh,
We're
okay.
just waiting on people to sign in. We've only got a couple people signed in,
Hmm.
and we are just kind of sharing it again to social media just to
Okay.
remind people we're here now.
Oh, okay.
See all the gongs in the background. I remember those.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that would be a nice background for today.
I get. Okay, so we'll just get started.
Okay.
I've got chat pulled up for anyone who wants to say hello to my new guest, Jere Friedman. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited to see you again and catch up with my dear friend. And I had your wife here as a guest not long ago. That was
Yes, you
really
did.
fascinating. And I
Uh,
thought,
I,
I wonder if I can get you.
I really, really enjoyed your conversation with Ellen, and I'm so excited. Thank you very much. It's a delight to be here with you, and I've really been looking forward to our conversation for several weeks now.
Yeah, yeah, me too. And I had thought I noticed that you are featured in a book.
Hmm.
And it talks about something that I feel, at least in my opinion, is really needed right now in today's ever-changing world and all the shifts that we're going through so powerfully together. And that topic is the divine masculine. To me, you really represent that. I felt that right away from the moment I met you. I'm like, we have a healed, whole divine masculine, and it made me really excited to meet you. And that represented in today's society, we don't get a lot of like male mystics in a modern world. I don't see a lot of you. I don't meet a lot of you, particularly like really standing in your center with your wholeness. And there's a power and also a grace of humility about you. And I wanted to talk about you, your life, the book, and
Okay.
how it was to write that. So to write
Well,
your part of the book, like what was that like to share your story and all this stuff today?
okay. Well, I want to start. You said healed and whole. I would like to qualify that by saying I am a work in process, and I will be until I take my last breath.
Look at that humility.
But well, there are moments, trust me. But I do agree with you that this is something that's very, very important in our world today, and I want to unpack that as we go along. You mentioned the book. I just want to get this out there real quick. The title of the book, which will the expected publication date is August 2nd, so just in a couple of weeks, I think.
Mhm.
The title of the book is Save. Um, find your voice, save your life. Four, the number four, because it's the fourth in the series. So it's find your voice, save your life. Four, transcendent men, real stories, and it'll be coming out on Amazon August 2nd. I'm one of 22 men who each contributed a chapter to this book. Um, each of us telling about our journey, our life's journey, uh, exploring. And I love your language of the divine masculine. And like I said, we'll unpack that a little bit as we go along. I have a lot to say about that.
Um, and tell us a little bit more about your background and your story and what made you want, like when you were asked to be featured in this book. I'm not going to give it away because I want them to get the book. It's incredible. But I
Hmm.
do want to know a little bit about like your story and what led you to that point.
Okay, okay. You know, it's interesting. A friend and colleague, and someone who actually was in one of my men's groups a while back, and he had already uh, signed up to be a contributor to this book. And
Mm.
he contacted me and told me what this was about and said, Jerry, I really think, your story needs to be heard here. It was one of those things, the timing was like, oh my God, right now, the last thing I need is yeah, uh, to write, to have an obligation or a commitment, not an obligation, to write a 3,000 word chapter for this book. And at the same time, knowing that this was not a human being speaking to me, it was a divine message. And I just couldn't, some things you just can't say no to. Okay. And this was one of them. As it worked out, the timing got pushed further out, and so the timing worked out beautifully. My chapter is called Becoming the Man My Children Would Want to Know. And the background is very short. Essentially, that I woke up one day and realized that my life was a complete and utter mess. I was broke, divorced, had two young children to support, and really, wasn't doing a good job of that. And I just basically looked in the mirror and decided that what I'd been doing wasn't working. The people that I was hanging out with, and especially my my intimate relationships with women, it just wasn't working. And so, decided to uh, try something different. And I did that, and I started getting my life back together. And hello, kitty cat. um, uh, Things were going better for a while, and then uh, due to circumstances beyond my control, I was separated from my children for a very, very long period of time. And I continued on my journey, uh, meeting Ellen, my wife of, well, we've known each other for 28 years now. That was a huge step forward in that journey. And I'll just kind of fast forward to the end of the chapter, which was that yes, I was able to reunite with my children, and that's been 18 years ago, and that is absolutely the joy of my life. And being able to be with my son and daughter, and we have two beautiful granddaughters now from my kids, and that's it in a nutshell. But there's a lot along the way that I do invite listeners to get the book. And by the way, I've read the entire book, and the other men's stories. I really feel like we're 22 voices uh, in a way, all telling the same story, or to me, weaving a tapestry and talking about how we each came to be more in touch with the divine masculine, what I call the authentic self, the authentic man. And that's part of the work that I do is working with men and the Authentic Man Project. And we can talk more about that.
Oh, I'd love to talk more about that now.
Okay. Okay.
That is the authentic man. I love
Mm-hmm.
that expression coming through you right now.
Yeah.
How did you happen upon that title, and what has your journey been like? And I'm sure that there's a breadth and the profundity and a beauty to this work that the planet really needs this right now.
Yeah. Thank you. That's exactly what this is all about. So if and when you read my chapter, you'll learn that I have a master's degree in spiritual psychology, which is really the art and science of the evolution of human consciousness and looking at, those simple questions of who am I, why am I here, and how can I make a meaningful difference in this lifetime? And recognizing that I'm not a man who happens to have a soul. I am. You are. Every person listening to this talk this morning, each of us is a divine being having a human experience in this lifetime on this planet. Okay? Now, it so happens that my soul chose to inhabit a male body in this lifetime. Your soul happened to inhabit a female body in this lifetime. But the soul is who we really are, not our name, not our body, not our jobs, not our family, and all of that. And getting back in touch with that, that's the game. That's what it's really all about. So, the Authentic Man Project. Um, how long do we have?
Well, how did you happen upon that? Like in your heart, what's the story? What really called you to that? And what's the work
Okay,
like?
yes. While I was getting my degree in spiritual psychology, one of the class was about 75% women, 25% men. Okay. And one of the guys organized a men's group, and we would meet once a month. And that was such profound, powerful work. There's such an energetic difference just to have a group of men, okay? And we can open up and talk and share about stuff as men. And as we hear one another and we realize, I'm not alone. I'm not the only person that feels this way. I'm not the only man who suffered or received, the stuff that we get as we're growing up. Don't cry. Don't express your feelings. It's not safe. Don't be vulnerable. because if you're vulnerable, that you're showing weakness, and you can't show weakness. Well, unlearning all of that stuff, learning that it takes tremendous courage to open up and be vulnerable and say, Pamela, I'm really hurting about this right now. Or this is really challenging me, and I don't know how to get from here to where I want to go with that. Can you help me? That's hard. And that takes courage. That takes strength. Okay. Not how much weight can I lift, okay, or how far I can throw something. Yeah. So so that work was so profound and meaningful. And then as I did my inner work and and healed my old wounds and hurts and learned how to be my own best friend, and learned that I cannot love another person any more than I love myself. Okay. I wanted to share that. Okay. Because, and I'm going to unpack this a little more when you're ready. As you said at the top of the talk, the world needs this now. It
Yes.
really, really needs it.
Yes. And with the title of your portion of the book, Becoming the Father I Want to Be, is that it? Is that right?
Becoming the man my
Mhm.
children would want to know.
Yes. That's it. Becoming the
If
man my
if
children
if
would
if
want to know.
if we had the opportunity to reconnect, which we did, I wanted to show up as someone that they could at least respect and hopefully love.
What did that look like for you?
Being kind, being loving, um, being more unselfish, being real, being real, and um, and so much of this work is about unlearning what we're taught as children. And this goes for men and women, right? But as men, unlearning what we're taught as boys of what a man is, who a man is, what we're supposed to do, what we're supposed to look like, how we're supposed to talk, okay? Unlearning that and allowing myself with a capital S, allowing myself to express myself with a capital S.
Mhm. Um, did you find that you had any internal resistance towards that expression of the self along the way?
Well, of course.
That's the
And
nitty gritty.
of course, and that is, that is the ego, and the ego gets a lot of bad press, okay? The ego has a job to do, and the ego does a really good job of keeping us safe, okay? And so if we're taught as children that it's not safe, uh, uh, if you, Pamela, I'm guessing, and maybe based on talking with you, it's especially hard for those of us who are tapped into the divine, if you call us mystics, okay? You know, sometimes when we express that, we get some real negative feedback or pushback. So we hide that, right? Okay. Um, so and the ego's job is to keep us safe. Well, if it's not safe to show the world who I really am and what I really think and how I really feel, I'm going to cover that up, and I'm going to pretend to be a real man, or whatever that means in my world. Okay. And it's unlearning that and helping the ego get comfortable with it's okay. It's okay. It is safe. to get out of my comfort zone,
Mm-hmm.
which is what a lot of my coaching is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get out of the comfort zone, because there is no growth there. There is no learning. There is no healing in the comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And try something different and see how it works.
Mm. In terms of children, you said being the man my children want me to be.
Would want to know.
Would want to know. Okay. Would want to know. That is such a powerful statement in the book. I couldn't, like I'm still just kind of unpacking that. Like, why wouldn't they want to know you? And I don't want to like go, put you through the sort of details of your past, but what about the masculine in today's world in general and the disconnect between the father and the child?
Mm.
Where's that? What's that all about to you? And what did you have to undo and unpack in yourself throughout that journey to feel that they would want to know you?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to touch briefly on kind of the why, because I know that they were being told stories about me that in part were not true, and in part that were true.
Yes.
Okay. And I just wanted that if and when, and thank God it did happen, that we were able to reconnect and reunite, I would want them as adults, which they were by the time that we met again, I would want them to be able to figure out for themselves who I am
Mm-hmm.
and what I'm all about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the falsehoods that were told about me, I can't do anything about that. They can figure out what they want to believe or not. But there was some of that stuff that it wasn't pretty. I mean, I was, in many ways, not who I was not showing up the way that I would want them or anyone else
Mm-hmm.
to see me, and just looking in the mirror and say, hey man, um, you know, change your act. That was hard, but I'm really glad that I did it.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna, if someone's here, any of my moderators, can you put the title of the book? Can you in the chat, Jere? Can you share it with us one more time?
Yes, yes. And you know what? I should have. I've got a graphic I could share. The title of the book is. It's a long title. Find Your Voice, Save Your Life, and then the number 4, because it's the 4th in the series. Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, and then there's like a colon. Transcendent Men, comma, Real Stories.
Got it.
Available on Amazon around August 2nd.
August 7th. Okay.
Second.
August the 2nd.
Yeah.
Coming out really, really soon. I'm super I'm super excited to read all of the stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I wanted to unpack a little bit with you about, number one, what is the divine masculine? We keep hearing this all the time, and we all have our own definitions, but what is yours?
I'm going to start by saying I don't really have a definition of the divine masculine. Okay. Now hold that thought and let's come back to it. And actually, I want to preface this because this is I'm going to give you a bit of a rant for a moment. Okay. Which is the foundation of my journey and my quest into this exploration of the authentic man, and the work that I do with, with others in the Authentic Man Project. My rant is as follows. I was a teenager in the late 60s, early 70s, when the women's movement first really came on the scene, okay? And this was in parallel with the civil rights movement. And by the way, I grew up in the Deep South. And so, the civil rights movement was a very real thing when I was a kid. And then, the women's rights movement. And it's like, wow, yeah, okay, right on. And notwithstanding recent events in the news, I would say that over the last 50 years, women have made tremendous strides in taking their rightful place in society. Do we have a long way to go? Oh, heck yes. Okay. And I'll give you one example. Ellen and I watched a thing on PBS the other night about the James Webb Space Telescope. And one of the things I was very impressed about was how many women were involved in this incredible, very, very technical scientific engineering project. It wasn't 50-50, but I'd say at least 35% of the people that were on this documentary were women. That's a lot different than when I was a kid looking at, the space launches, and it was all men with little narrow neckties, right? Okay. My experience, and so women have really stepped up and taken their place in a lot of leadership areas in our world, okay? My experience and what I witness is, as that's happened, men who are at least a little bit awake have kind of stepped back and said, oh yeah, oh, okay. But I'll speak for myself. It's like, okay, well, I think I know what not to say and what not to do and what not to touch. Sometimes I still don't get it right. But now what? I know what not to do, say, touch, but what do I do? And so the pendulum has swung way over here as the women's movement has come on the scene, and women are stepping up and taking, not, still taking their place. Well, us guys have just kind of, yeah, whatever you want, honey. Yeah, just go ahead. Yeah, you and the kids. Oh, okay, I'll come along, Well, that's not it, guys. Okay. So we don't know how to show up. That's what we need to learn. And so the exploration of, Pamela, I don't have a good answer for you. That's why I do men's work. I'm trying to figure out, what is the divine feminine, masculine? What is the divine feminine? So the questions of the Authentic Man Project is, what is masculinity? Who am I as a man? How do I show up and express my masculinity in appropriate ways? Okay. And, and that, as we already said, sometimes that means being vulnerable. Sometimes it means being assertive, but assertive in an appropriate way. So that's my rant. Thank you for listening. And the only other thing I would say for now, and I'll wait for the next question, is when we talk of the divine masculine, one way of looking at it is the archetypes of, king, warrior, magician, lover. and the positive and negative expressions of each of those,
Yeah.
right? Okay. And so that's a very good lens to look through. But the other concern that I have, and we have to use language.
Right.
We have to have language. We have to use language to try to suss this stuff out.
Mhm.
I have a little concern if we talk about the divine masculine and the
Mhm.
divine feminine,
Mhm.
that can or may imply separation. And the reality is, and part of the learning is that we all have aspects of both. Some of, in different ways, sometimes more feminine, sometimes more masculine, and it's a moving or shifting thing. It's not a constant thing. But each of us, I have a lot of feminine aspects. You have a lot of masculine aspects, but we need both. And so I'm a little troubled, trying to say, well, this is this and this is that because it implies separation. And yeah, okay.
I really want to unpack that a little bit more because in my experience of trying to suss it all out in my head, when the intellect gets a hold of language, when it gets a hold of concepts and then attempts to express it through any language, we densify it.
Hmm.
It's not just that we're separating it. In my expression, I tend to densify it and I tend to go, well, does that mean if I'm expressing from my wounded divine masculine, am I talking too much? And then what's the counter to that? Do I then press mute? Do I then shut down my voice? What's the counter to that that's also powerful and not shameful? We start to try to counter it when our minds get a hold of it. Have you noticed that?
Absolutely. And I love your word densify. That is such a great word for exactly what we're doing. We're taking some abstract concept and trying to make it like this computer mouse here, something I can hold on to. Um, so what came forward for me as you were asking the question. Um, and this kind of goes back to your question about becoming the man that my children would want to know. Um, one of the things that I learned and that I try my best to put into practice is before um, saying or doing, and actually the first word that came, before even thinking something, a great place to start is it loving? Am I coming from a place of loving in what I'm doing or how I'm doing it, or how, what I'm saying or how I'm saying it, or even what I'm thinking about myself or another person? Am I coming from a place of love? And in my experience, if I listen to that guidance, um, I can generally find the right path about 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm. I heard from a late 15th and early 16th century mystic once in her book, Mysticism. Evelyn Underhill wrote that, an exceptional mystic. And not a lot of people knew what she was talking about, but she had some fine essays on immanence, like immanence. That word really could not leave my breath for a long time when she began to talk about the concept of, and she never said divine masculine or divine feminine, but for me, eminence hit more divine feminine because it was about receptivity. Granted, everyone can. See, I'm already densifying. I'm already thinking that masculine can't. But this internal eminence, this is Jacob Behmen also 14th, 15th, and 6th, that whole time frame said the inflown word, the sacred word, the inflown word. And then when he would talk about something that I perceived masculine, he would say outflown, that it was just the same energy, just kind of inflown. And I imagined a bird with masculine coming out of me, outflown, the outflown word, the spoken outflown word of source. And then when Evelyn Underhill mentioned eminence, I felt a receptive energy of things going more inward and being able to receive properly. And then I thought, today, if I don't attribute one outflown with masculine and inflown or eminence with feminine, would I no longer densify the situation? You know, it was just something that crossed my mind. What would that look like if we didn't make everything a paradox?
Right, or an either or you know, us and them, or me and you. Yeah. Well, as you were talking about the inflown, that's a great word too, and outflown. I was just reminded, you know, that's the breath.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That's the breath. And you can't only breathe in. You can't. You know, I mean, you can breathe in and hold on to it, but at some point you're going to have to let go and exhale. And then you can't stay in that state forever either. Your body will do anything and everything it can to make sure you take another breath.
Right.
And so, you know, and we are, each of us as individual human beings, but really all of us as participants in the universe. And again, as we get images from these space telescopes looking, you know, way far out, it's like we're part of that. We're connected. We are not separate from any of that. And as I breathe in and breathe out, I'm connected through the breath with all of that.
That's a really great way to incorporate all of those aspects into us in a way that's beyond the body. You know, I find that when my mind gets a hold of these words, masculine and feminine, I start my ego attempts to kind of subjectively look at this as a relative man and a relative woman, and what's soft, you know, and what's powerful. And then I'm like, well, how come soft can't be powerful, or how come powerful can't be soft? And my mind goes into all that, which is something that was very, very interesting, because I did not notice that this was even discussed I didn't notice this with the Sufi masters. I didn't notice this with the 15th century mystics. I didn't notice that they were directly talking about it, and yet it was still happening in their world. When I read Evelyn Underhill's biography, it said, oh, well, she wanted to be a Catholic, but, you know, it would greatly offend her husband, you know, who felt like their marriage would be subject to lack of privacy because of a confessor, you know, because she has to go to confession. And she didn't follow the religion that she wanted to follow because of her husband. And yet she was an incredible feminist. And she was, and the same as like St. Catherine of Siena, you know, in her time was one of the first women, like one of the first feminists to directly approach the Catholic Church and say, we need reformation. As a young woman, how powerful that is, and no one's really talking about it yet. that's happening. And then I had some brief moments in thinking about this topic when I would go back to times in our world where people may not remember. You know, there's a great forgetting that occurred, say, beyond 4,000 years of our written history. What happened then? Was the feminine just as toxic? It makes you wonder if we aren't switching roles and then empowering each other from dense to light over and over and over again. And then in this time, what I've noticed is this is for a person who recollects a lot of her lifetimes. This is the first lifetime I've been in where I have noticed that we're working together. We're not saying we need this more than that. We need masculine more than feminine. The feminine is rising for sure, and it needs to, like you said. And at the same time, we need masculine, like we need each other right now.
Exactly. And that's what my exploration of masculinity and for myself and supporting others. We need it for ourselves, and we need it for our loved ones and for our community. The world needs us as men to step out of the old model, the old, cliches, or the whole macho thing, and the old paradigm of domination and oppression of others. Okay, and step into a new paradigm where we recognize that we are a community. None of us can get along without all of the others involved, and it's safe to step up and be part of that. That's why, kind of, I said earlier, the whatever you want, honey, that doesn't work. Okay, it's got to be a partnership, and whether that's in the family or our business or our social organizations or politics or whatever. Okay, um, let's be honest and respectful of one another, and also find ways to kindly and lovingly express our needs, our thoughts, our feelings, and work together to find solutions that are supportive and constructive.
Right. Right. Mm. Yeah, I feel like where I am in terms of processing this right now, when my heart gets a hold of this, with the divine masculine as a female, and now you're going to meet my other cat. Now the other one wants to say hi.
Yep.
He's definitely expresses more masculine than the other one.
Yep.
And we wouldn't say healed. He likes to fight. So there's, when I think about the masculine in me as a woman and the divine masculine, see, he's already fighting in the background. I've been told, and this is interesting, when people step forward, particularly in this world as mystical teachers or any sort of leadership role, and you have a background where as a woman, you've been told to shh, kind of shush. And then simultaneously, I was like putting that into a place, like a puzzle piece in my mind of, well, women are told to be meek. I grew up as a Southern Baptist woman who was told that cleanliness is next to God, meekness is second, and you learn principles of both feminine and masculine under the guise of a conditioned, systematic religion or philosophy or something, like many of us do. And as a woman looking at that, I tell you what, my I've had to keep my head out of it because my head really struggles. I can't get this from here. No matter how intellectual my ego would like to pride itself, I cannot get this from here. After many studies in continuing education, I'm still just philosophizing this and going, something doesn't make sense up here. And then when I drop it down into my heart space, it makes sense, but I can't pull it here yet. I don't know about anyone else's experience or your experience, but I can't pull it up here.
When you say I'm a little lost, when you talk about it, what,
The blending of the masculine and the feminine, and how to really express a masculine as a woman without feeling a concept that teaches you that humility is humiliation, a concept that teaches you that you should be meek and quiet, and that you shouldn't express, as Jacob Beman described it, the outflown word, that you shouldn't be that leader. It's like still some part of my head, and I have to like drop into my heart about it all the time, like every day.
well, it's a process and it's a practice. And that's, I said, I'm a work in process. Okay. I am not, I've done a lot of healing and I have found a lot of wholeness, but, I'm going to be working on this and you will too, until we draw our last breath. Okay.
Mm,
So there's always, always, always going to be opportunities for us to learn a little more or learn the same lesson over and over again, as I seem to need to do at times, or just go deeper.
mm,
No matter how well we feel like we have mastered something, there's always, always, always another level that we can go higher. Anyone, and I've not done martial arts, but from what I've read, anyone who's done martial arts or anything, playing the gongs, okay. Every time I pick up the mallet, it's like there's something new for me to learn here. So um, just uh, just be kind to yourself and acknowledge yourself for what you have learned and for how you have grown. That's what's important is that we really, just treat ourselves as we would treat a child, whether we have children or not. Just um, we're taught or we learn somehow we learn uh, to be harder and more critical of ourself um, than we are of other people, even though we do a pretty good job of judging other people at times as well.
mm,
Um, yeah, just give yourself credit. It's a process, and that's why a lot of well, with men or women, just in my coaching practice in general,
mm,
it's unlearning the old worn out concepts, judgments, beliefs, letting go of outdated beliefs that served us at one time. Oh, if I'm quiet right now, I'll get what I want. Okay. Okay. And then maybe that works again.
mm,
So if something works, we stay with it.
mm,
Um, okay. I'm all stressed out. I come home from work. I'm all stressed out about something. I'll have a glass of wine. Oh, I'm okay. That helps. I'm relaxed. And the next time, I'll have a glass of wine, and I feel relaxed. Well, that works for a while until one glass of wine becomes two, and
mm.
then it's a bottle of wine, and now the solution is a bigger problem than the
Yeah.
original problem. Okay. So it's really just about number one, becoming aware of our patterns, our beliefs, because until I'm aware of something, until I'm aware that the roof leaks when it rains,
Mhm.
I'm not going to do anything about it. Once I notice, oh my gosh, I've got a leak, well, I can choose either to do nothing. That's an option, and let the leak continue, or I can call a roofer and see about getting it fixed.
Right.
Mhm.
Mm.
I just, it's not seeing, it's hard because the mind, the ego, wants to categorize things.
Yes.
Male, female,
Mhm.
strong, weak, assertive, passive, whatever. It's so important to get past that and see myself and
Mhm.
others. As I said at the beginning, this is a divine being, myself especially. I'm a divine being. Whatever is going on in my world, I can judge as good or bad or right or wrong and be happy or upset about it. But that doesn't change who I really am. That is a constant that never changes and never goes away. And if I see myself or if I see you as that, I can separate who you are from what you're saying or doing at any given time, whether I like it or dislike it.
In other words, you can see the innocence of the essence of that being and not judge their actions.
Yes, or yes, exactly, or just you know, and just see actions or words
Mhm.
as an expression of our humanness.
Mhm.
Okay, um, but that doesn't change your value
Right.
as a divine being having a human expression. You know, we're all doing the best we can, darn it. And sometimes I nail it and get it, oh, yes. And it's like, oh, sometimes I wish I could have a do-over.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that way sometimes as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially the do-over part. You know, sometimes you go through one of those days and you're like, this whole day just needs a rewind. But
Yep.
then we realize the gratitude of waking up to another sunrise and being able to see that entire gift as a new experience that can really be molded like clay. The
Mhm.
day is clay. And I used to think, you know, the ego wants to be the potter, it wants to create everything, and wants to say, this is this and that is that. And if you do this, you feel good. And if you do that, you feel bad. And um, the more I allowed my soul to pray, meditate, breathe, inquire about the mystery of life, just the mystery of the truth that I just don't know everything. And not only do I not know everything, I really don't know anything.
And we can't know.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't. And what we can know from history, from religion, from science, from fact, from anything is completely limited to our brains and what we can discover, you know, as scientists or theologists or even mystics, even for whatever you want to call that. And then I realized I kind of just don't want to know. And that was an interesting expression that I couldn't deem as masculine or feminine. I just stopped wanting to know things. And for a time, and I believe this was the time when I first met you, there was a transition between meekness about it and almost a I don't want to talk about myself. I don't want to talk about anything because I don't know anything, which also led to just a little bit of shame and self-worth stuff. And then kind of coming out of that into, well, actually, I feel really empowered to not know any damn thing right now. It feels really damn good.
And I remember when we first met, and you were very timid about shining your light, getting your light out from under the bushel basket. And it's really sweet to see you now, just a few months later, just really, putting it out there. And that's part of getting back to, what's the what's the divine masculine, what's the divine feminine. Forget masculine, feminine. That's the divine. Just let it shine. No rhyme intended there. But
Mhm.
that's what the game is all about.
Yeah.
What's the divine in me? Seeing the divine in me, seeing the divine in you, uh, allowing allowing myself to express, whether it's through the gongs or the teaching that I do, or helping people with meditation, or my coaching, supporting people on their life's journey, um, and um, uh, I even as an attorney, I still have a law practice, and allowing myself to express who I really am through my role. And that's it. We have a lot of roles, whether I'm a parent, a husband, a brother, an attorney, a sound healer, all of these other things, a member of the community. We all have roles. That ain't who we are. And it's allowing ourselves to express that divinity, not masculine, not feminine, but the whole thing, which is light and love, LOVE. That's who we are. And how can I be more loving in this moment? When I remember that, I'm always, always, always guided to, um, if nothing else, just a very supportive um, moment in there, and very often a very positive um, experience. So,
My only definition so far, after really sitting with it and tapping into it, has been feminine for me is receptive and perceptive. It's not still, but it is receptive, like love coming in to flooding in. And then masculine is active. There's a charisma about it. There's a power when you take that receptive energy, and it has to be there to begin with,
yeah.
And then we take that and we extend it out to receive love or to extend it. It is really, that's how we have light, is that we have to have love. We have to have love, and then we extend it, and then light is outflown, as Jacob Beman put it. It starts to shine. And in that way, that's how we need each other. If you want to separate it, you can for dualistic purposes, and then we need each other,
Mm-hmm.
as we always have. And that's the only definition I've ever been able to put into my head about it.
That's very beautiful. And as we've already said, none of us, not one of us, could
Mhm.
possibly function between birth and death if we were only one, and or only the other. We have to receive and express. And just like we breathe in and out, that's how we go through life.
Well, thank you so much for coming
Well,
on here today.
thank you so much for inviting me. I'd like to let any of the people listening in know I offer a complimentary 60 or 90-minute session to anyone that would be interested in exploring any of these concepts. I'm happy to do that. Uh, do you share with them how to get in touch with me, Pamela?
Yeah,
My
we can.
website? Yeah, mhm,
Yeah.
or my email?
Mm-hmm.
Which would you prefer? Or
Let's do the website.
Okay, website is www.jerefriedman, and that's JEREFRIEDMAN.com.
Right. We'll pin that at the top for those who
Yeah.
look at this later. And please don't forget about the book project.
Mm-hmm.
That was an incredible experience. Would you remind them of the title of that book again?
Yes, it is Find Your Voice, Save Your Life 4, the number 4, Transcendent Men, Real Stories. And I want to say, I meant to say this earlier, this book will be very, very meaningful and valuable for women as well as men, to give you insight on our journeys, our struggles, and our transcendence as we step into who we really are.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much. I think we're going to close here.
Thank you
And
so
I love
much.
you. Give Ellen my love.
I sure will.
Much love to you and your
Love,
family.
love to Anya back at you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this.
We'll see you very, very soon. Bye, everyone.